Hey guys, how's it going? After a brief break to cover some horror classics, we're back on that Spider-Man grind. And in today's vid, we'll be diving into the Spider-Verse this time around to cover the film debut of one Miles Morales. I remember first hearing about Into the Spider-Verse and being really confused. This film was released just about a year after Spider-Man Homecoming, so I didn't really understand why Sony was dropping yet another new iteration of the character. But my confusion and skepticism was quickly erased upon watching the film. Spider-Man is intrinsically relatable as a character because he was just a random person who happened to gain powers. So having all these unique versions of the character from different universes actually is a seamless narrative direction. As it makes sense that if a random person got bit by a spider in every universe, not all of the web slingers are going to look or act the same. And seeing these different Spider-Man variations really helps establish that the core of the character is not what they look like, how they act, or even where they came from, but rather the unbreakable will and moral compass that guides them. And this, along with the relatability of the character, is what makes nearly all of its variations highly fascinating. While containing many versions of the web-slinger, this film is largely the origin story for Miles Morales. And rather than being overshadowed by the other Spider-Man, the film actually uses the others to help and strengthen Miles Morales' origin story. When Miles first meets his universe's Peter Parker, it's as if the character was constructed to be the perfect mentor figure for him. He's clearly in his prime, and at the peak of his powers, and is friendly with Miles and more than willing to show him the ropes. The film in fact starts with a quick debrief on this universe's Peter Parker, and in his monologue he says, "But after everything, I still love being Spider-Man. I mean, who wouldn't? So no matter how many hits I take, I always find a way to come back. Because the only thing standing between this city and oblivion is me. There's only one Spider-Man." This monologue helps establish that Peter very much thinks he's alone as the one and only Spider-Man. So discovering another like him is not only a relief for Miles, but for Peter as well, as he now is someone who can relate to his superhero life. But after a fleeting moment of relief for Miles, all of this is taken away when Peter Parker is killed by Kingpin. The monologue at the start of the film established that Spider-Man always found a way to get up. And so far in 7 theatrically released films, up to this point, Spider-Man had always found a way to save the day in the end. But not this time. Seeing the death of seemingly the perfect Spider-Man was shocking and established the stakes of the film right away. And Peter's death leaves Miles feeling like he's alone and is truly embarking into the unknown with no guiding force. Similarly to this, Miles had a seemingly great mentor figure in his personal life in Uncle Aaron. He's a charismatic and cool character who is comfortable bending the law a bit to spray graffiti with Miles. And this is welcoming for Miles because his dad is a police officer who is very uptight despite meaning well. But ultimately it is revealed that his Uncle Aaron is the Prowler and is perhaps a little too comfortable bending the law. The death of his uncle is so beautifully done in this film because it mirrors the standard Uncle Ben death in Spider-Man lore, but it puts a new spin on it. As in many ways, Miles is shown exactly what not to do and shapes his ideals not based on his uncle's path, but by wanting to avoid it. Having his dad be a police officer and someone who naturally hated Spider-Man also adds to the solitary path that Miles is on in this film, as he definitely can't confide about his secret in him due to a fear of scrutiny. Now, Miles does eventually get a mentor figure in the form of Peter B. Parker, and while he's not exactly the gold standard of Spider-Man, he's not in his prime anymore, is divorced, and not in the best of shape. But despite being a little bit of a reluctant mentor, he ends up giving Miles some advice that goes on to be the overall theme of the film. When Miles asks when he'll know he's ready, Peter B. tells him, "You won't. It's a leap of faith. That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith." And after going back to Aunt May to get a proper suit, Miles does just this. He takes a leap of faith. In one of the best Spider-Man sequences ever put to screen, Miles leaps off of a building, and even though he's descending, the shot is inverted to show Miles rising, as he is symbolically rising to the task of becoming Spider-Man. Visually, it's stunning, much like the rest of the film, but it's also a beautiful capitalization on the theme of making that leap of faith. We get one last callback to this theme of making a leap of faith in the third act of the film. Here we see Miles take down Peter B in the same way that Peter swept him off his feet earlier in the film, and as Peter is venting about his fears of messing things up all over again in his universe, Miles helps remind him that it's a leap of faith. This scene beautifully mirrors the previous scene and also draws a beautiful conclusion to the theme of making that leap of faith into the unknown. I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention the main villain of this film in Kingpin. He's the reason that the other Spider-Man and the spider that bit Miles come from different dimensions in the first place. On top of just being menacing as he kills the seemingly perfect version of Spider-Man, Kingpin has a somewhat sad backstory as his wife and son died in a car crash and he's trying to find an alive version of them in other universes. It's an insane idea, but one fueled by a human desire which makes him at least somewhat understandable. All in all, Into the Spider-Verse is a great origin story, with a beautiful message about not being afraid to take a leap of faith, fueled by likable and sympathetic characters, and an incredible and unique art style. While it didn't reinvent the wheel of what truly makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, it did help show that it doesn't matter where the character is from or what they look like. What makes Spider-Man a hero is what's on the inside, because at the end of the day, anyone can wear the mask. You could wear the mask. If you didn't know that before, I hope you do now. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and are interested in further explorations of screen stories, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe. And if you feel like I missed anything, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.